Hey there. I'm making a game, I guess. You can probably tell that from the video title. Um, about a week ago, I quit my job, and for the past 5 years or so, I've been saving about half my income. And yeah, I've been doing this for a while. Been full time deving for my job, doing side projects, doing jams. I went to school for games, and now it's time to actually do this. Give it a real try, the solo dev thing. Currently, the plan is to do these videos once a week to kind of abridge the week of work into just a few minutes of video to give you guys idea of what actually it's like to solo game dev. The current project is loose. Right now, there's two things that are more solid than everything else. One is that's probably going to be racing, and the other is that it's open world. Before I quit, I built a bunch of stuff kind of after work. A lot of the substructures to make that open world stuff work and the racing stuff work. So when you're seeing me start, I'm not starting from scratch. You're going to see a lot of stuff that's kind of around, but generally it all falls in the category of a basic physics model, because I didn't want to use Unity's. I'm using Unity. Yeah, everyone is. I didn't want to use Unity's wheels, so I ended up using my own physics model to kind of simulate a box as a car, so it kind of behaves like a car. I've worked on that for a while. And the other thing is this visual system I'm calling Palette 3D. It's really still an experiment. I might get rid of it, but just letting you guys know, if you see all of the colors are weird and broken, it's because it's this weird pipeline that it's working, but I need to spend time to refine it and get kind of a real visual style from it. And the third thing is the stuff that's powering the open world bits, which is all of this Bezier stuff. So there's Bezier curves and Bezier patches. They're essentially ways to define, curves in 3D space. And I'm kind of making a whole world building system that uses these Bezier curves and Bezier patches to make the open world easier to stream in and easier to generate different levels of detail. So that's the main three things that I have going into this that you'll see as I start explaining the stuff that I worked on this week. Getting into it, Monday I worked on the offset stuff. So essentially, when I'm defining a street, I have a system where I can just define streets as lines. So I draw a bunch of lines, and then I say how wide I want those lines to be and the direction that up is on them. And then it will generate, using math, the correct locations of all the vertices and all that. The issue I had before, I implemented it before, and it was sort of working, but for lines that are very long with curves, the curves start to taper, and kind of they don't have the same road width through the whole thing. The way you have to do it is essentially break it down into segments and then offset those segments. So you break into smaller bits and then you offset those smaller bits, because the longer the curve is, the more problems it gives you. So Monday I did the breaking up part. So now I can take any curve, break it up into smaller bits, and those bits will have correct tangents, and so tangents are what defines the actual slope of the curve. So that was all working. So most of my day Monday was looking over documentation. I'm using this JavaScript library that models Bezier curves, but it doesn't have any comments, which is really fun. You can see I'll put it up somewhere. really great variable names, really good, easy to read code. Eventually, I figured out how he does what he does, this guy that built this other library, and replicated it in my system. And yeah, it's working. And that brings me to Tuesday, where I worked on scaling those segments. So essentially, my line, it matches it, just breaks it up in multiple points, and then I need to offset it so that it makes a road. With the offsetting, the easy part is the points, because you just find, basically, you look at the line, you look at the direction it's heading, you find a perpendicular to it, and you place the point over there. That's easy. Again, the issue is the tangents. You're supposed to create a line between the two tangents of the subsegment you have. So you have endpoints, you have tangents, and then you offset that by the offset you want, and those are your new tangents. Unfortunately, in 2D it works. In 2D it's very easy. In 3D, finding the direction to go for the offset, I haven't found a good solution. So yeah, I'm still working on it. So after being really frustrated with the tangent issue with offsets, I worked on building generation. So getting a basic system where I can define a spine and boundaries along the spine, and then essentially you can generate a building. Right now it just does kind of straight lines between the boundaries, but eventually I want to add, more features, windows, balconies, roof types, all that stuff, but I have the base there, so I can have some basic obstacles to drive around and generated obstacles that I don't have to build by hand every time. After that, I made a basic debug script that just kind of places buildings randomly, so I have stuff to drive around on this big terrain slice I've been using for testing. Yeah, there's still, there's a lot of work to do there, but they're there. I now have stuff to drive around, which is nice. I think the random generation buildings isn't great, but I think the model I'm using for actually defining the building boundaries I really like, and I think I'm going to probably use it. It's abstracted, so I can use it for other things like trees and lampposts and all that, where I can just say, hey, here's the boundaries that you need to generate in, and then it will generate in those boundaries. So yeah, I was super happy with that. So Wednesday. Wednesday was a bit of an off day. I was a little drowsy at work, and then the task I had was not the best. So I was trying to find the corner points, which I had worked on before and had sort of working, but I now needed to adapt to the newer road definitions, the ones that have subsegments. So essentially, if you have a bunch of roads coming to an intersection, you need to find the points at which those roads cross over each other and then shorten them so that they will meet up at that one point, and then replace their individual nodes, the individual endpoints, with a single shared one that they both share, so that if you move it, it'll move both of them so they stay connected. So the process for doing that is to find a hypothetical crossing point, which you have to guess, because it's not actually doing collision, because they might not actually be colliding. They might kind of be one up and one down. So you find a hypothetical midpoint where you think they should intersect. Then along the segments that make up the road, you project and find the closest point. And when you find the closest point to that point you found for the corner, you merge them there. You essentially shorten both the roads and merge them at that point, and then delete anything that is past the merged point. And then fix their tangents so that they make sense for this new point. I got everything up until that last bit. Tangents are driving me crazy this week, but it's mostly working. I would say it works in about 60% of cases, and I later in the week I fixed it even more. But that was a very frustrating day. It was a lot of math, a lot of code that wasn't working perfectly. But it's an improvement. I can at least say that. It's definitely gotten better. So Thursday, I did a little fixing of those corner nodes, so a little bit more work just to kind of finish it up so I can move on to something else. And then because I had such a bad day Wednesday, I decided to do mostly fun stuff. So I worked on this bike wiggle bug that had been driving me crazy. Essentially, when I jump in the air, the bike shakes back and forth, and this happened forever. Luckily, it was actually a really it wasn't even a physics glitch, it was a visual glitch where essentially the model of the bike, how I align it, was in the wrong function. The other thing that I did was, what did I do? I wrote it down. Boost. I did boost. So previously my boost system was continuous, so there's ways to earn boost, which I'll talk about in a later video because this one's going too long. Where you essentially hold down the boost button and it continues to boost. And I changed that to a system where you earn boosts. So boost is a burst, essentially. So you hit a button and you get a burst for a certain amount of time. You don't hold it. I think it's going to work much better with where I want to go. I think it feels better currently. I still have it built so that I can swap them out if I feel like I want to, have a continuous boost unlockable or like a different mode. Swatch that out for burst. Think it's better. And that was most of Thursday. Friday was AI day. So I worked on a line following system. So essentially I define a sequence of line segments and the AI will follow that sequence of line segments. Most of the day was actually spent abstracting out the input code from the car class. So I have this car class which controls the car physics, and previously, like a Dumbo, I put a lot of the player control into that. So I abstracted that out, so now I essentially swap out a player module for an AI module and have either control a car. So that works really good now. And it's really close, I think. Right now, though, it's, as you can see, I'll put it up somewhere. It's kind of going in circles, but I think it's close. And then I'll have something to race against, which will be really cool. So next week, the big thing will be finishing up that AI, which I think will only take me a day. I think it'll only take me Monday. Then getting those edge tangents for more strange streets, like weird curves that I was talking about. Fixing those, and then fixing the street corner junction nodes. And once that is done, it'll be really fast to actually make tracks. So I'll be able to make roads, make stuff to drive around for AI. And luckily, the cool part is that because all my roads are defined by single lines, I can get my AI to drive on those roads by just following those lines, which will be so good once it works, if it works. It's gotta work. Please work. And that was the week. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Just put them down below. And I'll see you guys next week. Later.